Let me ask you something personal. Are you a Ronaldo person or a Messi person? Take a second. You already know the answer. You didn't have to think about it. It was just there. Immediate. Like knowing your own name. And if someone close to you, a friend, a brother, someone you genuinely like, is on the other side of that line, you've probably had at least one conversation that got a little more heated than either of you expected. Maybe a lot more heated. And here's the thing that's always fascinated me about that. It's not really about football. I mean, yes, on the surface it is. Two extraordinary players, a generation of debate, stats and trophies, and goals and assists, arguments that fill comment sections and barbershops and WhatsApp groups at 2 in the morning. But underneath all of it, underneath every "but he never did it in the Premier League," and every Messi doesn't show up in finals, underneath all of that is something so old it doesn't have a name in any modern language. What you're actually doing when you pick a side in the Ronaldo versus Messi debate is something your ancestors did every single day for hundreds of thousands of years. And they did it not because they enjoyed arguing. They did it because their lives literally depended on it. Here's where it starts. Humans are, at their core, a tribal species. Not metaphorically, biologically. Anthropologists who study early human societies have found that for the vast majority of our existence, we're talking a time frame that makes all of recorded history look like a footnote. Humans lived in small, tight groups, somewhere between 50 and 150 people, and the survival of every individual in that group depended on the strength and cohesion of the group itself. This created a powerful psychological need that researchers call in-group identity, the need to know which group you belong to feel that belonging deeply, and to distinguish your group clearly from every other group, not just to know the difference, to feel the difference, in your chest, in your gut. Because in the world your brain was designed for, the group on the other side of that hill was competition. For food, for land, for resources. The stranger was a potential threat before they were anything else. And the person beside you, wearing the same marks, speaking the same language, worshiping the same symbols, that person was safety. That person was survival. Your brain developed a system for this. Neuroscientists and social psychologists call it in-group favoritism and out-group derogation, which is a very clinical way of saying your brain is hardwired to love your tribe and be suspicious of everyone else's. It does this automatically below the level of conscious thought, before you've even had time to evaluate the situation rationally. Henri Tajfel, a Polish-British social psychologist, and spent the rest of his life trying to understand how ordinary people end up on opposite sides of a line, willing to do terrible things to each other, ran a series of experiments in the 1970s that revealed something deeply uncomfortable. He found that you don't need history, you don't need shared experience, you don't even need a real reason to divide people into groups. You just need a label. He split people into groups based on completely arbitrary criteria, whether they preferred Klee or Kandinsky as painters, whether they overestimated or underestimated the number of dots on a screen. Meaningless distinctions. And almost immediately, people started favoring their own group and discriminating against the other one, allocating more resources to their group, rating their own group members as smarter, more trustworthy, more likable. Nothing had happened between these groups. They had no shared history, no conflict, no reason to feel anything. And yet the tribal machinery switched on anyway, almost instantly, as if it had been waiting for any excuse to start running. Now think about Ronaldo and Messi. You didn't choose your side based on nothing. Maybe you grew up watching one of them. Maybe your dad supported Real Madrid or Barcelona. Maybe the first football memory you have is a specific goal, a specific tournament, a specific moment that locked itself into your brain when you were 8 or 9 years old and haven't moved since. The details are different for everyone, but the mechanism underneath is the same ancient one that Tajfel was studying. The moment you picked a side, your brain filed everyone else into one of two categories: us, them. And from that moment, something shifts in how you process information. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. Once you've committed to a group identity, your brain starts working backwards. Instead of evaluating evidence and forming conclusions, it starts with the conclusion, my side is right, and then selects, filters, and interprets all incoming information to support that conclusion. Studies by Ziva Kunda at the University of Waterloo showed that people engaged in motivated reasoning genuinely believe they are being objective. They're not aware of the filtering. They think they're just seeing clearly. Which is why you can sit two equally intelligent, equally informed football fans in front of the same match, the same statistics, the same career highlights, and they will walk away having seen completely different things. One walked away seeing confirmation that their player is the greatest. The other walked away seeing the same. Neither of them is lying. Both of them are right inside the logic of their own tribal brain. This is also why the debate never ends. It's not supposed to end. Tribal identity doesn't resolve through evidence. It resolves through dominance or defeat. And since neither Ronaldo nor Messi has ever definitively, permanently, universally won, since the whole argument was always going to be subjective anyway, the tribal engine just keeps running, keeps looking for new fuel. Another trophy, another Champions League final, another World Cup, another piece of evidence to pour into the same conclusion that was already locked in years ago. There's a researcher named Jonathan Haidt at New York University who has spent his career studying moral psychology, why people hold the beliefs they hold, and why they defend them the way they do. One of his central findings is that moral and tribal reasoning works more like a lawyer than a scientist. A scientist starts with evidence and follows it wherever it leads. A lawyer starts with a conclusion and builds the best possible case for it. And most of us, most of the time, when it comes to the things that matter to us, including football, are running the lawyer's playbook. So when you see someone online writing a 7-paragraph breakdown of why their player is objectively, statistically, unquestionably the greatest of all time, they are not reasoning their way to a conclusion. They concluded years ago. They are building the case, and it feels like reason to them because that's what the brain does. It hides the tribal machinery and shows you the paperwork. But here's the part I find genuinely beautiful about all of this. The fact that this debate exists at all, the fact that it has lasted over 2 decades, that it has crossed every border and every language and every culture, that a kid in Lagos and a kid in Jakarta and a kid in Buenos Aires can sit down together having never met and immediately know which side each of them is on. That's not a sign of something petty or irrational. It's a sign of something very human. We are a species that needs to belong to something. That needs to feel the pull of a side. That needs the electricity of a rivalry, not just to entertain us, but to bind us together, to give us a shared language, a shared story, a reason to care about the same thing at the same time as strangers on the other side of the world. Ronaldo and Messi didn't just give us a football debate, they gave an entire generation of humans a tribal identity that cost nothing, hurt almost no one, and connected hundreds of millions of people to something larger than their own individual lives. And somewhere in a very old part of your brain, the part that was built around a fire in a group of 150 people on a planet that didn't have cities yet, that part recognized exactly what this was. A tribe worth belonging to. It picked a side before you could think about it. And honestly, it was never going to do anything else. Now here's the part that really gets me. When the rivalry ends, and it has already started to wind down, both players in the final chapters of careers that will never be repeated, something interesting is going to happen. The debate won't disappear. It will calcify. It will become history. And history, for a tribal brain, is sacred. Think about how people still talk about Pelé versus Maradona. Neither of them has played a competitive match in decades. Maradona is gone. And yet the argument is still alive, still running, still capable of generating exactly the same heat at a dinner table in Sao Paulo or Naples as it did when both men were playing. Because the tribal identity that formed around them didn't require them to keep playing. It just required them to have existed long enough for a generation to build their loyalty around them. The same thing is coming for Ronaldo and Messi. Long after both of them have retired, long after the last goal and the last trophy and the last interview, there will still be children growing up being told by their fathers which one was greater. And those children will absorb it. They'll feel it. And 20 years from now, some of them will be sitting in a bar somewhere having the exact same arguments you've had about players they never saw play at their peak because the tribe persists even when the reason for it is past. This is what Tajfel understood. This is what Haidt has spent his career documenting. Tribal identity doesn't need a living cause. It just needs a story. And the Ronaldo versus Messi story is one of the greatest that sport has ever produced. Two players, same era, different in almost every imaginable way. In style, in personality, in the way they carry themselves, in what they seem to want from the game. One built like a machine and driven like one, relentless and loud and impossible to ignore. The other, quiet and fluid and so naturally gifted, it almost looks accidental, like the ball is just doing what gravity does. They could not have been more different if someone had designed them specifically to divide a species. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the reason this particular debate landed so deep, resonated so widely, refused to die, maybe it's because between them, they managed to represent two completely different answers to the same question. What does greatness look like? What can a human being become if they dedicate everything to a single pursuit? When you pick a side in that argument, you're not just picking a footballer. You're picking a philosophy, a way of seeing the world, a story about what matters and why, which is exactly what tribes have always done. They don't just tell you who your people are. They tell you who you are. So the next time you feel that familiar heat rising when someone casually puts your player below theirs, like it's not even a serious question, just know that what you're feeling in that moment is not irrational. It is one of the most ancient and deeply human things you will ever feel. Your tribe is being challenged, and 300,000 years of evolution just showed up to defend it.